Hello there, and welcome to this first look exploring session for Beyond Shakespeare, where today we are doing the Revenger's Tragedy, which is attributed to Thomas Middleton. It's been attributed to other people over the years, but at the moment we're sticking with Middleton. To help us go through this amazing play today, I've got this wonderful team of readers, and we're going to get straight down to it. So, playing today, first judge Piero and Dondolo is...
Hello, in Suffolk.
Playing Castiza, Spurio, and Ambitioso is...
Lynn, in the northwestern United States.
Playing Vindici, we have...
Lois, in London.
Playing Gratiana and junior brother is...
Aliki, in Greece.
Playing the Duchess today, we have...
Rachel, in Canada.
Playing Hippolito and Supervacuo, we have...
Mark, in the Midwest United States.
And playing Lussurioso and the Duke, we have...
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm here. I have cake, sort of, maybe.
We're all very jealous of the cake. And I am your host, Sarah Blake. I will be reading the stage directions and also the role of Antonio, and I am stepping in for Robert Crighton, who will be back with us hopefully very soon. Just so that you know, we had to do, someone dropped out of this session just before we started recording, so we've had to shuffle the parts around really quickly, so it could be that people will end up talking to themselves. If that happens, we'll maybe stop and flag it up, but we hopefully it'll all be fine, and if people do end up talking to each other, then just use silly voices, folks. That's all good. Right, okay, so let's crack straight on with the Revenger's Tragedy. Act 1, Scene 1. We start with the entrance of Vindici, the Duke, the Duchess, Lussurioso, the Duke's son, Spurio the Bastard, with a train, and they pass over the stage with torchlight.
Duke, royal lecher, go, grey-haired adultery, and thou, his son, as impious steeped as he, and thou, his bastard, true begot in evil, and thou, his Duchess, that will do with devil. 4 excellent characters. Oh, that marrowless age should stuff the hollow bones with damned desires, and instead of heat, kindle infernal fires within the spendthrift veins of a dry duke, a parched and juiceless luxury. Oh God, one that has scarce blood enough to live upon, and he to riot it like a son and heir. Oh, the thought of that turns my abused heartstrings into fret. Thou, sallow picture of my poisoned love.
And he views the skull in his hand.
My study's ornament, thou shell of death. Once the bright face of my betrothed lady, when life and beauty naturally filled out these ragged imperfections, when 2 heaven-pointed diamonds were set in these unsightly rings, then 'twas a face so far beyond the artificial shine of any woman's bought complexion, that the uprightest man, if such there be that sin but 7 times a day, broke custom and made up 8 with looking after her. Oh, she was able to have made a usurer's son melt all his patrimony in a kiss, and what his father in 50 years told to have consumed, and yet his suit been cold. But oh, accursed palace, thee, when thou wert apparelled in thy flesh, the old Duke poisoned, because thy purer part would not consent unto his palsied lust. For old men lustful do show like young men angry, eager, violent, outbid belike their limited performances. Oh, where an old man, hot and vicious, age as in gold, in lust is covetous. Vengeance, thou murders quit rent, and whereby thou show'st thyself tenant to tragedy, oh, keep thy day, hour, minute, I beseech, for those thou hast determined. Whoe'er knew murder unpaid? Faith, give revenge her due. She's kept touch hitherto. Be merry, merry. Advance thee, O thou terror to fat folks, to have their costly three-piled flesh worn off as bare as this. For banquets, ease and laughter can make great men, as greatness goes by clay. But wise men little are more great than they.
Enter Hippolito.
Still sighing o'er death's vizard.
Brother, welcome. What comfort bringst thou? How go things at court?
In silk and silver, brother, never braver.
Thou play'st upon my meaning. Prithee say, has that bald madam opportunity yet thought upon? Speak, are we happy yet? Thy wrongs and mine are for one scabbard fit.
It may prove happiness.
What is't may prove? Give me to taste.
Give me your hearing, then. You know my place at court.
Aye, the Duke's chamber, but 'tis a marvel thou'rt not turned out yet.
Faith, I've been shoved at, but 'twas still my hap to hold by the Duchess' skirt. You guess at that. Whom such a coat keeps up can ne'er fall flat. But to the purpose. Last evening, predecessor unto this, the Duke's son warily inquired for me, whose pleasure I attended. He began by policy to open and unhusk me about the fame and common rumor. But I had so much wit to keep my thoughts up in their built houses, yet afforded him an idle satisfaction without danger. But the whole aim and scope of his intent ended in this: conjuring me in private to seek some strange digested fellow forth of ill-contented nature, either disgraced in former times or by new grooms displaced since his stepmother's nuptials. Such a blood, a man that were for evil only good. To give you the true word, some base-coined pander.
I reach you, for I know his heat is such. Were there as many concubines as ladies, he would not be contained. He must fly out. I wonder how ill-featured, vile proportioned that one should be if she were made for woman, whom at the insurrection of his lust he would refuse for once. Heart, I think none. Next to a skull, though more unsound than one, each face he meets he strongly dotes upon.
Brother, you have truly spoken. He knows not you, but I will swear you know him.
And therefore I'll put on that knave for once, and be a right man then, a man of the time, for to be honest is not to be in the world. Brother, I'll be that strange composed fellow.
And I'll prefer you, brother.
Go to, then. The smallest advantage fattens wronged men. It may point out occasion. If I meet her, I'll hold her by the foretop fast enough, or like the French mole, heave up hair and all. I have a habit that will fit it quaintly. Oh, here comes our mother.
And sister.
We must coin. Women are apt, you know, to take false money. But I dare stake my soul for these two creatures, only excuse accepted that they'll swallow, because their sex is easy in belief.
Enter Gratiana and Castiza.
What news from court, San Carlo?
Faith, mother, 'tis whispered there the Duchess' youngest son has played a rape on Lord Antonio's wife.
On that religious lady?
Royal blood. Monster, he deserves to die if Italy had no more hopes but he.
Sister, you sentence most direct and true. The law is a woman, and would she were you. Mother, I must take leave of you.
Leave? For what?
I intend speedy travel.
That he does, madam.
Speedy indeed.
For since my worthy father's funeral, my life's unnatural to me, even compelled, as if I lived now when I should be dead.
Indeed, he was a worthy gentleman, had his estate been fellow to his mind.
The Duke did much deject him.
Much.
Too much. And though disgrace oft smothered in his spirit when it would mount, Surely I think he died of discontent, the nobleman's consumption.
Most sure he did.
Did he? Lack, you know all. You were his midnight secretary.
No, he was too wise to trust me with his thoughts.
Faith then, father, thou wast wise indeed. Wives are but made to go to bed and feed. Come, mother, sister, you'll bring me onward, brother.
I will.
I'll quickly turn into another.
And they all exit, and that is the end of Act 1, Scene 1. So, we've got a happy little family unit here. Everybody seems perfectly normal and, I mean, everybody walks around with a skull in their hand like it's this year's accessory, I believe. So, yeah, very, very striking opening, and lots of plot already. We're straight into it. Lynn, you have things to say.
Yeah, there's a pretty good film version of this, a modern dress film version of this, where Vindici comes on with this skull that's got long red hair, and then there's like a flashback scene without dialogue of them of him and his fiancée, who has long red hair, at their wedding. And in that interpretation, the Duke poisons her at her wedding, that she drinks champagne and
right.
Yeah. So yeah, and like this court could hardly be more venal. I mean, the Duke is a notorious sex addict, basically, and poisoned this woman just because she said no to him. And then one of his sons is a rapist, and another one, do we find this out yet, is hitting on Castiza.
We definitely know one of them's a rapist. That much has been established, or at least it's been spoken of. Yeah, I should have. I should have perhaps said at the beginning of this recording, although I did not know because I am new to this play. Yes, trigger warning. Potentially not just for murder, but for rape and God knows what else. Frankly, I have no idea. This is a Jacobean revenge tragedy, so who knows? Proceed with caution. Sorry, Lynn, I interrupted you. Do you have anything else to add?
It's going to be over the top, and I think that this first scene signals that.
Yeah. They're certainly setting it up. Mark, and then Aliki.
I've read this before, and I'm still like trying to get straight, like, wait, who's done what bad to who?
Yeah.
Like, in my memory, it was, I was conflating certain characters, and it left me a little confused about who's talking about what where. But I'm with it now. But yeah, it's still taking me.
Good. Okay, let's just put it all together then for the because I mean I have to say I'm not. I think I've probably missed a few things as well. Let's put it all together for the viewers at home. So Vindici is wanting revenge on the Duke because the Duke killed his fiancée several years ago. Is that right? And then his brother Hippolito comes to him and says that one of the Duke's sons, is it? Needs a procurer or a pimp, basically, because he's wanting to have an affair. Have I got that right? And then his their mother and sister turns up, and we discover that their father is dead as well. We don't know quite yet how he's died, whether it's natural causes or whether he's been poisoned or not. If anyone has anything else to throw in, please do. Aliki.
I mean, it sounds like Vindici blames the Duke for that as well, that he sort of fretted him into his grave.
Yeah, disgraced him, or yeah. So the Duke, who we haven't met yet, is being kind of built up as this, fairly awful character. Who knows? He might be lovely when we meet him. Who knows? Let's. Lois, yes, and then Eric.
Just another thing, which is that everybody is pretty misogynistic in this as well, aren't they? I mean, especially Vindici, and his way of praising his dead fiancée is mostly that she inspired lust in everybody, but she was too chaste. She resisted it. But it's still it's a rather odd notion of women in a way.
Yeah, no, it is. He could be corrupted by grief, or he could be warped by grief, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe he's just like that. Eric, you had your hand, and then I'll go to Mark, and then Aliki.
I was just going to say that I was thrown by the initial stage direction, enter Vindici, and then the Duke, so on and so forth, pass over the stage with the torchlight, because I was like, are they listening to this? What on earth is going on? But then obviously that's the Duke, Duchess, and all those other characters are basically a dumb show.
Yeah, I think they pass through.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's set as the same stage direction, and I was like, wait, what is? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in terms of like plot summary that it's specifically the Duke poisons Vindici's fiance because she wouldn't sleep with him. He says because her purer part would not consent unto his palsied lust. And yeah, if we've been told what exactly happened to his father and why that thing happened to his father, I didn't notice.
No, there was some talk of disgrace, but yes, it was all a bit hazy. Aliki, you had your hand up, and then I think I saw Lois's as well.
Yes, well, I was going to say along the lines of what Lois was saying, Vindici may well be right that he's thoroughly wronged, but he doesn't come across as a very decent or nice person himself. Apart from, yeah, my girlfriend was hot, but she wouldn't do it with anybody. He's also got, and I am the only just and decent person at that court. Gosh, how will I go there? And then just kind of gratuitous misogyny at his poor widowed mother.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't care how much he loved his fiance. He's walking around with her skull. It's like, maybe it's just me, but I'm seeing that as a red flag. Lois, and then we must move on.
Yeah, well, it was just about the staging at the beginning. I said earlier that I've seen a production where Vindici actually walked around and spoke to each of these people while they were just frozen, and there was a kind of change in the music and everything to indicate that time was suspended, nobody could hear him. The other way to do it, I think, would be probably to have him on the upper level while they all passed below, so that the audience could recognize each of them as he speaks about them. But there's clearly something like that. I mean, it's a procession, but he's actually acting as the presenter, telling us who's who.
Yes, so the audience kind of gets it all set up for them. That's probably quite wise, given that this is already quite involved and complicated. It's good to know who everyone is. Rachel, is that a hand I see, or is that just no? Okay, good. Right, okay, let's move on then. We've already had quite a lot to chew on. Let's see what happens next. Looking at the stage directions, I'm going to say definitely a trigger warning for sexual assault in this next scene, or at least talk of a sexual assault. So, Act 1, Scene 2, enter the old Duke, Lussurioso, his son, the Duchess, the bastard Spurio, the Duchess's two sons, Ambitioso and Supervacuo, the third son, her youngest junior brother, brought out with officers for the rape, and two judges.
Duchess, it is your youngest son. We're sorry his violent act has e'en drawn blood of honor and stained our honors, thrown ink upon the forehead of our state, which envious spirits will dip their pens into after our death, and blot us in our tombs. For that which would seem treason in our lives is laughter when we're dead. Who dares now whisper that dares not then speak out, and e'en proclaim with loud words and broad pens our closest shame?
Your grace hath spoken like to your silver years, full of confirmed gravity, what it is to have a flattering false inscription on the tomb, and in men's hearts reproach. The foul courts may be seared in, but with free tongue I speak, the faults of great men through their cerecloths break.
They do. We're sorry for it. It is our fate to live in fear and to die to live in hate. I leave him to your sentence. Doom him, lords. The fact is great, whilst I sit by and sigh.
My gracious lord, I pray be merciful. although his trespass far exceed his years, think him to be your own as I am yours. Call him not son-in-law. The law, I fear, will fall too soon upon his name and him. Temper his fault with pity.
And I'm just going to stop us there because, yeah, we jigged the parts around and we thought this was going to work out, but actually it's clearly not because Eric is playing both the Duke and Lussurioso. Are you going to adopt a different voice, Eric? Are you happy to do that, or shall we
I
just...
was about to, but I don't think there is an interaction because I think that there's a missing stage direction of the Duke sitting aside and doing...
Right, okay, good. Okay, so if you're watching at home, just know Eric is now playing someone else.
Good, my lord. Then 'twill not taste so bitter and unpleasant upon the judge's palate, for offences guilt o'er with mercy show like fairest women, good only for their beauties, which wasted off, no sin is washed off, no sin is uglier.
I beseech your grace, be soft and mild. Let not relentless law look with an iron forehead on our brother. And I'm also Spurio. He yields small comfort yet. Hope he shall die. And if a bastard's wish might stand in force, would all the court were turned into a corse.
No pity yet? Must I rise fruitless then? A wonder in women. Are my knees of such low metal that without respect?
Let the offender stand forth. 'Tis the Duke's pleasure that impartial doom shall take fast hold of his unclean attempt. A rape! Why, 'tis the very core of lust, double adultery.
So, sir,
And so we don't have a second judge. And which was worse, committed on the Lord Antonio's wife, that general honest lady? Confess, my lord, what moved you to it?
why, flesh and blood, my lord, what should move man unto a woman else?
Oh, do not jest thy doom. Trust not an axe or sword too far, for the law is a wise serpent, and quickly can beguile thee of thy life. Though marriage only has made thee my brother, I love thee so far, play not with thy death.
I thank you, troth. Good admonitions, faith, if I'd the grace now to make use of them.
The lady's name has spread such a fair wing over all Italy, that if our tongues were sparing toward the fact, judgment itself would be condemned and suffer in men's thoughts.
Well, then, 'tis done, and please me well were it to do again. Sure she's a goddess, for I'd no power to see her and to live, if it falls out true in this, for I must die. Her beauty was ordained to be my scaffold, and yet methinks I might be easier, says my fault being sport, let me but die in jest.
This be the sentence.
Oh, keep it upon your tongue, let it not slip. Death too soon steals out of a lawyer's lip. Be not so cruel wise.
Your grace must pardon us. 'Tis but the justice of the law.
The law has grown more subtle than a woman should be.
Now he dies. Rid him away.
Oh, what it is to have an old cool duke, to be as slack in tongue as in performance.
Confirmed, this be the doom irrevocable.
Oh,
Tomorrow early,
pray be abed, my lord.
your grace much wrongs yourself.
No, 'tis that tongue. You're too much right, does us too much wrong.
Let that offender
Live and be in health.
be on a scaffold.
Duke,
Hold, my lord.
on it. What makes my dad speak now?
We will defer the judgment till the next sitting. In the meantime, let him be kept close prisoner. Guard bear him hence.
Brother, this makes for thee. Fear not, we'll have a trick to set thee free.
Brother, I will expect it from you both, and in that hope I rest.
Farewell, be merry.
And exit Supervacuo with a guard.
Delayed, deferred. Nay, then, if judgment have cold blood, flattery and bribes will kill it.
About it then, my lords, with your best powers, more serious business calls upon our hours.
And they all exit apart from the Duchess, who's left alone on stage.
Was it ever known step-duchess was so mild and calm as I? Some now would plot his death with easy doctors, those loose living men, and make his withered grace fall to his grave and keep church better. Some second wife would do this, and dispatch her double-loathed lord at meat or sleep. Indeed, 'tis true, an old man's twice a child. Mine cannot speak. One of his single words would quite have freed my youngest, dearest son from death or durance, and have made him walk with a bold foot upon the thorny law, whose prickles should bow under him. But 'tis not, and therefore wedlock faith shall be forgot. I'll kill him in his forehead. Hate there feed, that wound is deepest, though it never bleed. And here comes he whom my heart points unto, his bastard son, but my love's true begot. Many a wealthy letter I have sent him, swelled up with jewels, and the timorous man is but coldly kind. That jewel's mine that quivers in his ear, mocking his master's dullness and vain fear. He's spied me now.
Madam, your grace so private, my duty on your hand.
Upon my hand, sir, troth, I think you'd fear to kiss my hand too, if my lips stood there.
Witness I would not, madam.
And that is Spurio, who has entered, and he kisses her.
'Tis a wonder, for ceremony has made many fools. It is an easy way unto a duchess, as to a hatted dame, if her love answer. But that by timorous humours, pale respects, idle degrees of fear, men make their ways hard of themselves. What, have you thought of me?
Madam, I think of you in duty, regard, and
On my love, I mean.
I would it twere love, but 'tis a fouler name than lust. You are my father's wife. Your grace must guess now what I would call it.
Why, the art his son but falsely. 'Tis a hard question whether he begot thee.
Faith, 'tis true. I am an uncertain man of more uncertain woman. Maybe his groom of the stable begot me. You know I know not. He could ride a horse well, a shrewd suspicion, marry. He was wondrous tall. He had his lengthened face for peeping over half-shut holy-day windows. Men would desire him light when he was afoot. He made a goodly show under a penthouse. And when he rid, his hat would check the signs and clatter barbers' basins.
Nay, set you a horseback once, you'll ne'er get light off.
Indeed, I am a beggar.
That's the more sign thou art great. But to our love, let it stand firm both in thy thought and mind, that the Duke was thy father, as no doubt he bid fair for it. Thy injury is the more, for had he cut thee a right diamond, thou hadst been next set to thy dukedom's ring, when his worn self, like age's easy slave, had dropped out of the collet into the grave. What wrong can equal this? Canst thou tame and think upon it? Let me tame him.
No, mad and think upon it.
Who would not be revenged of such a father, even in the worst way? I would thank that sin that could most injure him, and be in league with it. Oh, what a grief 'tis that a man should live but once in the world, and then to live a bastard. The curse of the womb, the thief of nature, begot against the seventh commandment, half damned in the conception by the justice of that unbridled, everlasting law.
Oh, I'd a hot-backed devil to my father.
Would not this mad impatience make blood rough? Who but an eunuch would not sin, his bed by one false minute disinherited?
Ah, there's the vengeance that my birth was wrapped in. I'll be revenged for all. Now, hate, begin. I'll call foulest incest, but a venial sin.
Cold still, in vain, then must a duchess woo?
Madam, I blush to say what I will do.
Thence flew sweet comfort, earnest, and farewell.
And she kisses him.
Oh, one incestuous kiss picks open hell.
Faith now, old Duke, my vengeance shall reach high. I'll arm thy brow with woman's heraldry.
And exit the Duchess.
Duke, thou didst me wrong, and by the act, adultery is my nature. Faith, if truth were known, I was begot after some gluttonous dinner. Some stirring dish was my first father, when deep healths went round, and ladies' cheeks were painted red with wine, their tongues, as short and nimble as their heels, uttering words sweet and thick, when they rose, were merrily disposed to fall again. In such a whispering and withdrawing hour, when base male bawds kept sentinel at the stairhead, was I stolen softly. Oh, damnation meet! The sin of feasts, drunken adultery, I feel it swell me. My revenge is just. I was begot in impudent wine and lust. Stepmother, I consent to thy desires. I love thy mischief well, but I hate thee and those 3 cubs thy sons, wishing confusion, death, and disgrace may be their epitaphs. As for my brothers, the Duke's only son, whose birth is more beholding to report than mine, yet perhaps as falsely sown, women must not be trusted with their own. I'll loose my days upon him. Hate all I, Duke, on thy brow I'll draw my bastardy. For indeed a bastard by nature should make cuckolds, because he is the son of a cuckold maker.
And he exits, and that's the end of the scene. Okay, we've got quite a lot to unpack here.
I'm just laughing at Aliki's reaction. Yeah.
Okay, Aliki, let's start with you. I was gonna do a bit of plot summary for the readers at home, but no, let's come straight to you with your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I can do a plot summary if you want.
No, give me your thoughts. I'm sure they're more interesting.
You know, I was thinking of Phaedra and Hippolytus, but this manages to be even more misogynist than the ancient Greeks, and that takes some doing.
Yeah, it does. Alan.
It does almost feel like there's a tick list going on. Right, how many taboos can I get in one scene?
Yeah. So let's just break it down. So and thank you. Can I just say thank you to Mark for putting a family tree in the in the chat, because I for one was getting very confused, which is why I'm going to do a quick précis for the viewers at home. So the Duke and Duchess, clearly this is a second marriage for both of them, or possibly even a third, who knows. The Duke has 2 sons, the Duchess has 3, and they don't have any children in common. So it's one of the Duchess's sons, her youngest son, Junior, who is being accused of this rape. And she is wanting the Duke to, to stop him from being executed for that rape. And to be fair, the Duke is like, oh, well, he's basically given him a stay, hasn't he? So he's like, he hasn't kind of pronounced judgment yet. He's gone off to prison, but he hasn't actually been condemned to death. But this is not enough for the Duchess. So the Duchess is going to get her revenge by sleeping with the Duke's second son, from his, well, not from a previous marriage, I think from a mistress, because he is Spurio the bastard, so his natural son, and she's going to get her revenge by having an affair with him, and he is totally up for this, even though he really doesn't like her. He's gonna commit incest with her anyway. Well, marital incest, which I think was akin to actual incest back then, because of the way the church viewed these things. But I think he's doing this more to get revenge on his father. Am I right? Yes, because because presumably not being a legal child, he's been treated badly, I assume. Yeah, and that's pretty much, I think, what we've got going on in that scene. If anyone has anything to add, please do. I go to Lynn and then Mark.
Spurio might even be his oldest son. Because I think the Duchess says something about you.
True.
If you had if you were legitimate, you'd be heir. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So he's
but
probably, yeah, he's the older son, but he's
still,
not.
like the difference in their ages must be significant if she's
Yeah.
the mother of three adult sons.
Yes,
So,
although the Duke, I think, is in his dotage, isn't he, from the way people have been describing him. So
yeah,
she could still
yeah,
be significantly younger than
yeah.
him.
But,
There might only
yeah,
be like a sort of 10-year gap between them or whatever.
I
but it's
think
still
that
pretty.
the
It's still pretty icky.
age difference between the Duchess and Spurio is large.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Who else had things to say? Alan has things to say.
Yeah,
And then, sorry, and then Mark. Mark, I'll come to you next. Sorry,
there was
go on.
a stage direction earlier, which I think was an error because it describes Supervacuo as leaving under guard. It would make far more sense if junior brother was the one who was exit guarded, given that he's been basically told he's a naughty boy, but we ain't going to do anything about it immediately.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe he went off with him. I am not sure. I mean, he did definitely leave at some point, but I don't know. I cannot comment on that. Mark, let me come to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot with foreheads and brows in this scene.
Mm.
The Duke talks about, that I think it's the junior brother's crime is thrown ink upon the forehead of our state. In terms of it being, a scandal set down in history or something. And then the Duchess and Spurio the bastard are both deciding to sleep with each other to Duchess, I'll arm thy brow with woman's heraldry, and Spurio, on thy brow I'll draw my bastardy. Lots of brow stuff.
Yeah, lots of brows, lots of head stuff. I'm guessing someone's going to have a fever on their brow at some point or other. But yeah, well spotted. I'll go to Lois and then Aliki.
Yeah, I mean the brows are partly because of horns, of course, cuckolding.
Yeah.
Your brow sprouts horns when you're being cuckolded. But yeah, I just wanted. I mean, what's going on is so horrible that I wouldn't want you not to notice also the extremely vivid language. I mean, Spurio's speech I think is marvelous. The idea of some stirring dish was my first father. It's this whole idea. I mean, there's an emblem. I talked about emblems last week, but there is an emblem. It's a saying, in fact, without Bacchus and Venus, without Ceres and Bacchus, Venus freezes, and that's the idea that food and wine, are aphrodisiac, and that's really what he's talking about here. And ladies' cheeks painted red with wine, and that's really what begot him was some banquet where everybody was so full of food and drink that they really didn't know what they were doing. But it's just kind of gloating over everything. I mean, even stuff like when base male bawds kept sentinel at stairhead. I mean, not just bawds, but male bawds and base male bawds. I mean, let's have the lot.
Yeah, he's piling it on, isn't he? Yeah. And I mean, yeah, we're in a world that seems to be it's an old world, isn't it? It's like a world that's been, it's the Roman Empire just before the decline. I mean, it's not obviously, but it's got that vibe to it. We've got the vibe of a sort of a court that's kind of been around a long time and is kind of slipping into degeneration and decadence and all those things. All right, it was Aliki next, and then I'll come to Mark and then Eric.
And along with this very sensual preoccupation with food and wine and sex, there's always death. Nobody fails to bring it up. Like the Duke isn't even, this is a really diplomatically embarrassing incident, to have my stepson going around raping people. It's going to be a disgrace to my grave, to my body in death. Whoa.
Yeah, but that kind of all adds to the sort of like the jaded atmosphere, doesn't it? Mark and then Eric, and then we must move on. Mark, you're muted.
We talked about the misogyny earlier, and Spurio talks about the legitimate brother that I have, the heir of the Duke, Lussurioso, he may be a bastard too. Women must not be trusted with their own. So there's obviously misogyny in there, and then there's I feel like there's a lot of discussion of confusion of who's parents and all that, and I feel like the sheer number of characters, and that it's kind of confusing to keep track of who's kids. They almost feed into one another. It just like as like a theme of like unknown parentage, both on the audience's confusion and in the characters' lives.
Yeah, and it just creates an even greater sense of entanglement, doesn't it, between all these people? It's like the audience is thrown, the viewer's thrown straight into all this like all this kind of family plotting, and it's just it's like it's all thrown at you straight off the bat. Like it's a lot to kind of, you feel like you're plunging in to like a very deep pool of something quite cloying and nasty. Eric.
I was going to say that, well, if you want to liken it to the Roman Empire, then obviously this is in Caligula's period of reign, because you had the whole like sleeping with this incest and all like sort of suffering, but that was more political, obviously. So
yeah. I mean, obviously it's not the Roman Empire, but I made that comparison just because I just feel that this is like, this feels like a court that's been going a long time and has kind of sated itself on too much luxury and too much of everything, really, and is just kind of falling into kind of weakness and jaded kind of decadence, because it's just done everything already, and we have the fruits of it with all these various children up to stuff. Lois, did you want to add? You look like you wanted to add. No, okay. No. All right, let's go on then. Act 1, Scene 3. Enter Vindici and Hippolito. Vindici in disguise to attend Lussurioso, the Duke's son.
But, brother, am I far enough from myself?
As if another man had been sent whole into the world and none wist how he came.
It will confirm me bold, the child of the court. Let blushes dwell in the country. Impudence, thou goddess of the palace, mistress of mistresses, to whom the costly perfumed people pray. Strike thou mine eyes to steady sapphires, turn my visage, and if I needs must glow, let me blush inward, that this immodest season may not spy that scholar in my cheeks' fool bashfulness, that maid in the old time whose flush of grace would never suffer her to get good clothes. Our maids are wiser and are less ashamed, save Grace the bawd. I seldom hear Grace named.
Nay, brother, you reach out of the verge now. A Svut, the Duke's son. Settle your looks.
Pray, let me not be doubted.
My lord.
Enter Lussurioso.
Hippolito will be absent. Leave us.
My lord, after long search, wary inquiries, and politic siftings, I made choice of yon fellow whom I guess rare for many deep employments. This our age swims within him, and if time had so much hair, I should take him for time. He is so near kin to this present minute.
'Tis enough. We thank thee. Yet words are but great men's blanks. Gold, though it be dumb, does the better thanks.
Gives him money.
Your plenteous honor, an excellent fellow, my lord.
So give us leave.
And exit Hippolito.
Welcome. Be not far off. We must be better acquainted. Pish, be bold with us. Thy hand.
With all my heart and faith. How dost, sweet muscat. When shall we lie together?
Wondrous knave. Gather him into boldness. Swat, knave, the slave's already as familiar. The slave's already as familiar as an ague, and shakes me at his pleasure. Friend, I can forget myself in private, but elsewhere I pray you to remember me.
Oh, very well, sir. I consider myself saucy.
What has been of what profession?
A bone setter.
A bone setter.
Bawd, my lord, one that sets bones together.
Notable bluntness. Fit for me, Ian, trained up to my hand. I've been scrivener to much knavery then.
Oh, fool to abundance, sir. I've been a witness to the surrenders of 1,000 virgins, and not so little. I've seen patrimonies washed to pieces, fruit fields turned into bastards, and in a world of acres, not so much dust due to the air was left to as would well gravel a petition.
Fine villain, troth, I like him wondrously, Ian shaped for my purpose. Then thou knowest the world's strange lust.
Oh, Dutch lust, fulsome lust, drunken procreation, which begets so many drunkards. Some fathers dread not, gone to bed in wine, to slide from the mother and cling the daughter-in-law. Some uncles are adulterous with their nieces, brothers with brothers' wives. Oh, hour of incest. Any kin now next to the rim of the sister is man's meat in these days. And in the morning, when they are up and dressed and their mask on, who can perceive this, save that eternal eye which sees through flesh and all? Well, if anything be damned, it will be 12 o'clock at night. That 12 will never scape. It is the Judas of the hours, wherein honest salvation is betrayed to sin.
Troth, 'tis true, but let this talk glide. It is our blood to air, though hell gape wide. Ladies know Lucifer fell, yet still are proud. Now, sir, wert thou as secret as thou art supple, and deeply fathomed into all estates, I would embrace thee for a near employment. And thou shouldst swell in money and be able to make lame beggars crouch to thee.
Oh, my lord, secret! I ne'er had that disease of the mother, I praise my father. Why are men made close but to keep thoughts in best? I grant you this, you tell but some woman a secret overnight, your doctor may find it in the urinal in the morning. But, my lord...
So thou art confirmed to me, and thus I enter thee.
And he gives him money.
Oh, this Indian devil will quickly enter any man, but a usurer. He prevents that by entering the devil first.
Attend me. I'm past my depth in lust, and I must swim or drown. All my desires are levelled at a virgin not far from court, to whom I have conveyed by messenger many waxed lines, full of my neatest spirit, and jewels that were able to ravish her without the help of man. All which and more she, foolish chaste, sent back, the messengers receiving frowns for answers.
Possible? 'Tis a rare phoenix, whoe'er she be. If your desires be such, she so repugnant, in truth, my lord, I'd be revenged and marry her.
Pish! The dowry of her blood and of her fortunes are too mean. Good enough to be bad withal. I'm one of that number can defend marriage as good. Yet rather keep a friend, give me my bed by stealth. There's true delight. What breeds a loathing in it but night by night?
A very fine religion.
Therefore, thus I'll trust thee in the business of my heart. Because I see thee well experienced in this luxurious day wherein we breathe, go thou, and with a smooth, enchanting tongue, bewitch her ears and cozen her of all grace. Enter upon the portico of her soul, her honor, which she calls her chastity, and bring it into her expense. For honesty is like a stock of money laid to sleep, which ne'er so little broke does never keep.
You gin it the tang, if faith, my lord. Make known the lady to me, and my brain shall swell with strange invention. I will move it till I expire with speaking, and drop down without a word to save me, but I'll work.
We thank thee, and will raise thee. Receive her name. It is the only daughter to Madame Gratiana, the late widow.
Oh, my sister, my sister.
Why dost walk aside?
My lord, I was thinking how I might begin, as thus, oh, lady, or 200 devices, her very bodkin will put a man in.
I heard the wagging of her hair.
No, that shall put you in, my lord.
Shalt? Why, content dost know the daughter then?
Oh, excellent well by sight.
Ah, that was her brother that preferred thee to us.
Oh, my lord, I think so. I knew I'd seen him somewhere.
And therefore, prithee, let thy heart be to him be as a virgin close.
Oh, my good lord.
We may laugh at that simple age within him, himself being made the subtle instrument to wind up a good fellow.
That's I, my lord.
That's thou to entice and work his sister.
A pure novice.
Was finely managed.
Gallantly carried. A pretty perfumed villain.
I've bethought, if she prove chaste and still an immovable, venture upon the mother, and with gifts, as I will furnish thee, begin with her.
Oh, fie. That's the wrong end, my lord. 'Tis mere impossible that a mother by any gifts should become a bawd to her own daughter.
Nay, then, I see thou art but a preaching in the subtle mystery of a woman. Why, 'tis held now no dainty dish, and the name is so in league with age that nowadays it does eclipse 3/4 of a mother.
Ah, does it so, my lord? Let me alone, then, to eclipse the 4th.
Why, well said. Come, I'll furnish thee, but first swear to be true and all.
True.
Mate, but swear?
Swear, I hope your honor little doubts my faith.
Yet for my humor's sakes, because I love swearing.
'Cause you love swearing. Slud, I will.
Why enough? They're ere long look to be made of better stuff.
That will do well indeed, my lord.
Attend to me.
And exit Lussurioso, leaving Vindici on stage alone.
Oh, now let me burst. I've eaten noble poison. We're made strange fellows, brother, innocent villains. Wilt not be angry when thou hear'st on't, think'st thou? In faith thou shalt. Swear me to foul my sister. Sword, I durst make a promise of him to thee. Thou shalt disheir him. It shall be thine honor. And yet, now angry froth is down in me, it would not prove the meanest policy in this disguise to try the faith of both. Another might have had the selfsame office, some slave that would have wrought effectually, and perhaps o'erwrought them. Therefore I, being thought travelled, will apply myself unto the selfsame form, forget my nature, as if no part about me were kin to him. So touch him, though I durst almost for good venture my lands in heaven upon their blood.
And he exits, and that's the end of that scene, and it's just getting more and more unpleasant. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but so does everyone else. Excellent. Let me go around the room. We'll start with Eric, then we'll go to Alan, and then Lynn.
May I say, this can't possibly go wrong. I just like the fact that, I think there was a line something like, be as secret as thou art subtle. And it's like, well, up to that point, Vindici hasn't really proved himself. Like, he kind of goes, oh, yeah, women, oh, yeah, we'll totally,
Yeah, this is a guy who wanders around with a skull in his hand. It's like, how subtle is he, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very true. Alan, and then Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember if we talked at the beginning of what period, what date this is from. But I mean, way back when we first started this project years ago, we used to have early modern bingo cards. It looks like we need a completely different new one. To tick off all of the assorted sins, cardinal and venial, that keep coming up in this one.
Well, we're into Jacobean. I mean, when we started off, we were in more in the Tudors, and now we're in Jacobean tragedy, and we need a whole new blood-stained bingo card. I'm looking, and it says this was first performed in 1606 and published in 1607. So, yeah, we're right in Jacobean revenge territory. Lynn.
Yeah, Sarah said something in the first round of comments about that, we don't like anybody very much, including Vindici, who is the central character. And I think this certainly tracks with that. When he gets hired to be Lussurioso's procurer, you get the feeling that he's going to go through with it until he finds out that the mark is his sister. He would have tried to seduce another woman if it hadn't been someone close to him. You get the sense. So yeah, not a good person. The other thing, and this is like Jacobean tragedy squared, right? Yeah, you've got rape, you've got it all. And the interesting thing to me, and I don't know what to make of this about Jacobean tragedy, is unlike late 16th century history plays, when there was a vogue for history plays, politics doesn't really matter. Or like Roman plays, like Eric was saying, except for politics. In not Sejanus, we seduce the emperor's wife, although we don't see that, but really it's the politics that matter. And here it's like politics don't exist. The only reason he's a duke is because it enables him to get away with things.
Yeah. It's more about personal gratification, isn't it, than anything else. I just wanted to come back to you there, though, because I have a feeling, unless I read it wrong, when you said, Lynn, that he wasn't going to do it because he would have done it, but then he wasn't going to because she's his sister. I think he is going to do it, isn't he? As I understood it in that soliloquy at the end, he was saying, "Oh, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to forget my nature, as if no part about me were kin to him." I think he is going to do it in order to try the faith of both. I think he's basically going to do it just to see if his sister and his mother are as great as he thinks they are, which I'm just like, oh my God. What could possibly go wrong with this plot? But anyway, if I've misinterpreted that, then someone please fill me in. Rachel, did I see your hand? And then Lois.
I was just going to say exactly that in his final soliloquy, he says, well, since I'm in this disguise, I might as well test my mom and sister.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh God, it's just so nasty.
And if someone else in a different disguise might, so I might as well do it myself.
Yeah, why not? As I'm here already. Lois, and then Mark, and then Eric.
Yeah, okay, well, a couple of things. I mean, one is, although it's not obviously political, one thing about Jacobean tragedies is that the lust in them is always heterosexual. The ruler could not possibly be identified with James I. I mean, that's and you don't get the other type of lust, which he could obviously be accused. I mean, you don't get Edward II, for example, which belongs to a period again in which the ruler could not have been accused of that. So they are watching what they're doing. The other thing I think is that it's not clear that Vindici actually intends to do any of this procuring. I mean, the main thing he wants is to get close to the court in order to carry out his revenge. I mean, everything else is sort of subordinate to that. On the other hand, he may well do all these things, of course, if he has to. But the main thing is just to be in a position where he could actually kill some of these people.
Yes, getting close to the son and heir is a good way of doing that. The fact that he's even thinking about it, though, like it's like, oh yeah, well, I could just test my sister. I mean, a mother. It's like, oh, dude, you are so unpleasant. Mark, you had your hand up, and then
It's
Eric.
for the drama.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we don't know what he would have done if Lussurioso, put him towards some person we don't know, and we don't know, would he just test them like it sounds like he's gonna do with his sister and mother, but presumably wouldn't actually, or would he, be like, hey, anything I gotta do to get my revenge, I'll do it.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, good point. Eric.
I was just gonna say, I'm kind of hoping that they're not like Patient Gristle, where like they have to like wait for it, pretend that the Marquis is dead, and then sort of, look, we found our daughter and son, and they're perfectly fine, and oh, how happy I am to be someone's wife. He doesn't even give a shit about my feelings, or mental health or anything. Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping this. I mean, it's a tragedy. So obviously and we know that it's misogynistic, incestuous, blah blah blah. But I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't take that direction because I mean I think we've had plenty of patient gristles throughout over the past 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be said, whenever we do a tragedy, whoever is left standing, who hasn't been reduced to a body on stage, whoever is left standing, you do have to worry for their mental health going forward at the end of the play. So I don't know. I fear this could be that way again, Eric. I don't want to put you off in advance, but I have a feeling that maybe, however this ends, it's not going to be great for anybody. But we'll see. Hey, we'll find out. Anyone got anything else to add? If not, then let's move on into Act 1, Scene 4. Enter the discontented Lord Antonio, whose wife, the Duchess's younger son, ravished. Very nice to have a recap in the stage direction there. He discovering the body of her dead. Oh, to certain laws, including Piero and Hippolito. And I am playing Antonio. Draw nearer, lords, and be sad witnesses of a fair, comely building new fallen, being falsely undermined. Violent rape has played a glorious act. Behold, my lords, a sight that strikes man out of me.
That virtuous lady.
President for wives.
The blush of many women whose chaste presence would e'en call shame up to their cheeks, and make pale wanton sinners have good colours.
Dead. Her honour first drank poison, and her life, being fellows in one house, did pledge her honour.
Oh, grief of many.
I marked not this before. A prayer book, the pillow to her cheek. This was her rich confection, and another placed in her right hand with a leaf tucked up, pointing to these words: Melius virtute mori, quam per decedus dedecus vivere. True and effectual it is indeed.
My lord, since you invite us to your sorrows, let's truly taste them, that with equal comfort as to ourselves we may relieve your wrongs. We have grief too, that yet walks without tongue. Cure leves locuntur, majore stupent.
You deal with truth, my lord. Lend me but your attentions, and I'll cut long grief into short words. Last revelling night, when torchlight made an artificial noon about the court, some courtiers in the masque, putting on better faces than their own, being full of fraud and flattery, amongst whom the Duchess' younger son, that moth to honour, filled up a room, and with long lust to eat into my warren amongst all the ladies singled out that dear form. Whoever lived as cold in lust as she is now in death, which that step-Duchess monster knew too well. And therefore, in the height of all the revels, when music was heard loudest, courtiers busiest, and ladies great with laughter, oh, vicious minute! Unfit but for relation to be spoke of, then, with a face more impudent than his vizard, he harried her, amidst the throng of panders that lived upon damnation of both kinds, and fed the ravenous vulture of his lust. Oh, death to think on't! She, her honour forced, deemed it a nobler dowry for her name to die with poison, than to live with shame.
A wondrous lady, of rare fire compact, she has made her name an empress by that act.
My lord, what judgment follows the offender?
Faith, none, my lord. It cools, and is deferred.
Delay the doom for rape?
Oh, you must note who 'tis should die. The Duchess's son. She'll look to be a saver. Judgment in this age is near kin to favour.
Nay, then, step forth, thou bribeless officer.
And Hippolito draws.
I'll bind you all in steel to bind you surely. Here let your oaths meet, to be kept and paid, which else will stick like rust and shame the blade. Strengthen my vow that if, at the next sitting, judgment speaks all in gold, and spare the blood of such a serpent e'en before there seats to let his soul out, which long since was found guilty in heaven.
We swear it. We'll act it.
We'll act it.
Kind gentlemen, I thank you in my heart.
For pity the ruins of so fair a monument should not be dipped in the defacer's blood.
Her funeral shall be wealthy, for her name merits a tomb of pearl. My lord Antonio, for this time, wipe your lady from your eyes. No doubt our grief and yours may one day court it, when we are more familiar with revenge.
That is my comfort, gentlemen, and I joy into this one happiness above the rest, which will be called a miracle at last, that, being an old man, I'd a wife so chaste. And they all exit, and that's the end of that short little scene. So, yes, we'd heard about this rape, and now the victim in question, Antonio's wife, she hasn't been given a name, we have learned has poisoned herself because she cannot live with the shame. And so we have our first body on stage. We haven't actually seen the death, but we've a body has turned up, so we've, you know, the count has started. And yeah, Antonio brings her body to court, and everyone swears to avenge him, which yeah, let's see how that goes. Thoughts about this short little scene? Quite dramatic. Aliki.
I mean, I know I keep saying this, but what's the first thing everybody says? Oh, poor dead lady, she was so chaste.
Yeah.
End of the scene. My wife, she was so chaste. And
Yeah.
there's only one virtue that women have, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's not having sex.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Eric, and then did I see a hand from Mark as well? No, just Eric. Then thank you.
I was gonna say that this, like, I know that it's a tragedy, but it seems to be heading into like the sort of Hoffman territory, where you start off with the skull and you escalate to a dead body, and then obviously you're gonna escalate into further shenanigans. Except I think Hoffman actually doesn't take itself this seriously. So I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, Hoffman's very extra. For anyone who's wondering what we're talking about, the tragedy of Hoffman is also a revenge tragedy, but it's very, very extra. This is not quite that.
Check out our YouTube channel if you want to see our explorations of it.
Indeed, yes, they're all there for you to ponder. Sorry, Eric, you were saying.
No, I was just saying that it's also like Hoffman is also the alternate title is Revenge for a Father. So it's like, yeah, revenge. I mean, you know, if you have revenge in the title, you kind of know people are gonna die.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
Although it is extra, like they clearly had a budget for that one, and I'm wondering what the budget is for this one, because maybe this is like the sort of classier A-list horror movie as opposed to like a B-list horror movie.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They had quite a lot of props in Hoffman, but that's a different play. Go check it out. Anyone got anything else to add? I am slightly I'm disturbed by a lot of this, actually, for reasons not least that Aliki was talking about earlier. I'm particularly disturbed by this speech. "'Twere pity the ruins of so fair a monument should not be dipped in the defacer's blood." I'm like, say what now? Does that really say what I think it says? Like, because, you know, we know Hippolito is not exactly we know him and his brother are not exactly like the most stable of persons, but that just seems to be, talking of being a bit extra, that just does seem to be going a little bit too far. I assume the ruins of so fair a monument, I'm assuming he's talking about her body, her corpse, being dipped in the defacer's blood, i.e. The Duke's son, who was the one who did the deed. I'll go to Lois and then Alan.
Well, he's just saying pity not to revenge her. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, but it's a very graphic way of saying it though, isn't it? It's like that's not a good visual.
No, but I mean, a lot of the language is like that. Extremely. But what's also interesting, I think, is that the play is called The Revenger's Tragedy, and I think usually it's Revenger, R''S, and you think of Vindici, but actually, just about everybody in this play at some point says, "I'm taking revenge for something." So you could really say it Revengers plural.
Yes, yeah. You could put that apostrophe after the S, and because everybody's got a lot of issues that they need to work through. Alan, and then I think I saw Mark's hand.
Just wonder whether there was a competition going on between the various playwrights and companies at the time as to who could get the most shocking scenes or the highest body count on stage, because that's what drew the punters in.
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know, but certainly Middleton's having a crack. Middleton's having a crack at it for most schlocky. Mark, what was your thought?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you take that, "'Twere pity the ruins of so fair a monument should not be dipped in the defacer's blood." If you take that literally, it's like they're gonna kill the guy and then bring his blood to her body.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's like, even if it's not, if it's not literal, it's just such a nasty image. It's just, it's right up there. Aliki.
Yeah, I think it's really not, because remember what I was saying before about how the Duke says the rape stains his forehead or something. There's all of this constant, the sense that crimes mark the people near them, or the people near the criminals physically, stain them, drench them, whatever.
Yeah. Eric, and then we must move on.
Well, also, I seem to remember in things like Arden of Faversham or other true crime plays, well, even non-true crime ones, but of this sort of Elizabethan / Jacobean era, you get references to when someone has been murdered, they that their blood, their body will sort of basically start bleeding all over again when they're near their murderer. So it's kind of blood and murder seem to be, obviously this is seen as a murder, not a suicide, which is interesting, first of all. Which would have been quite bad. I mean, suicide would have been the ultimate crime, right? But
no, that's interesting actually. That there's no because I mean, suicide was obviously something that was it was considered a mortal sin at this point, but that's not dwelt on at all, is it? It's like it's seen more as a kind of as like a murder. It was like a noble thing that she did in order to, because she'd been dishonored and all the rest of it. Lois, did I see a hand from... Rachel, I'm seeing a hand from you, definitely.
Yeah, the noble suicide to protect the chastity of the family is a sort of Lucretia kind of model, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Oh, we're in Borgia territory, guys. You know you're going to need your cushion when we get into that sort of territory. Anyway, Aliki, you look how I feel. Let's see what happens next. We have finished Act 1. We're going to go into Act 2, Scene 1. This is quite a long scene. I don't think I'm going to stop, but, well, it depends what happens. If we come to a point where it seems like a good place to break, then we will. Otherwise, we'll power through till the end of the scene. Act 2, Scene 1, enter Castiza, the sister.
How hardly shall that maiden be beset, whose only fortunes are her constant thoughts, that has no other child's part but her honor, that keeps her low and empty in estate. Maids and their honors are like poor beginners. Were not sin rich, there were fewer sinners. Why had not virtue a revenue? Well, I know the cause. 'Twould have impoverished hell. How now, Dondolo?
Donna, there is one, as they say, a thing of flesh and blood, a man, I take him by his beard, that would very desirously mouth to mouth with you.
What's that?
Show his teeth in your company.
I understand thee not.
I speak with you, Madonna.
I say so, Badman, and cut off a great deal of dirty way. Had it not been better spoken in ordinary words that one would speak with me?
Ah, that's as ordinary as 2 shillings. I would strive a little to show myself in my place. A gentleman usher scorns to use the phrase, and fancy of a serving man.
Yours be your own, sir. Oh, direct him hither.
And exit Dondolo.
Oh, I hope some happy tidings from my brother that lately travelled, whom my soul affects. Here he comes.
Enter Vindici, her brother, disguised.
Lady, the best of wishes to your sex, fair skins and new gowns.
They thank you, sir. Whence this?
From a dear and worthy friend.
From whom?
The Duke's son.
Receive that.
And she gives a box on the ear to her brother.
I swore I would put anger in my hand and pass the virgin limits of my sex to him that next appeared in that base office to be his sin's attorney. Bear to him that figure of my hate upon thy cheek, whilst yet 'tis hot, and I'll reward thee for it. Tell him my honor shall have a rich name, and several harlots shall share his with shame. Farewell. Commend me to him in my hate.
And exit Castiza.
Ah, it is the sweetest box that e'er my nose came nigh, the finest drawn work cuff that e'er was worn. I'll love this blow forever, and this cheek shall still hereafter take the wall of this. Oh, I'm above my tongue. Most constant sister, in this thou hast right honorable shown. Many are called their honor that have none. Thou art approved forever in my thoughts. It is not in the power of words to taint thee. And yet, for the salvation of my oath, as my resolve in that point, I will lay hard siege unto my mother, though I know a siren's tongue could not bewitch her so. Mass fitly, here she comes. Thanks my disguise. Madam, good afternoon.
And enter Gratiana.
You're welcome, sir.
The next of Italy commends him to you, our mighty expectation, the Duke's son.
I think myself much honoured that he pleases to rank me in his thoughts.
Oh, so may you, lady, one that is like to be our sudden Duke. The crown gapes for him every tide, and then, commander o'er us all, do but think on him. How blessed were they now could pleasure him, e'en with anything almost.
I save their honour.
Oh, tut, one would let a little of that go too, and ne'er be seen in't, mark you. I'd wink and let it go.
Marry, but I would not.
Marry, but I would, I hope. I know you would too, if you'd that blood now which you gave your daughter. To her, indeed, 'tis this wheel comes about. That man that must be all this, perhaps ere morning, for his white father does but mould away, has long desired your daughter.
Desired.
Nay, but hear me, he desires now that will command hereafter. Therefore be wise. I speak as more a friend to you than him. Madam, I know you're poor. And lack the day, there are too many poor ladies already. Why should you wax the number? 'Tis despised. Live wealthy, rightly understand the world, and chide away that foolish country girl keeps company with your daughter of chastity.
Oh, fie, fie. The riches of the world cannot hire a mother to such a most unnatural task.
No, but 1,000 angels can. If men have no power, angels must work you to it. The world descends into such base-born evils that 40 angels can make 80 devils. There will be fools still, I perceive, still fools. Would I be poor, dejected, scorned of greatness, swept from the palace, and see others' daughters spring with the dew of the court, having mine own so much desired and loved by the Duke's son? No, I would raise my state upon her breast, and call her eyes my tenants. I would count my yearly maintenance upon her cheeks, take coach upon her lip, and all her parts should keep man after man, and I would ride in pleasure upon pleasure. You took great pains for her once when it was. Let her requite it now, though it be but some. You brought her forth. She may well bring you home.
Oh, heavens, this overcomes me.
Not, I hope, already.
It is too strong for me. Men know that know us. We are so weak, their words can overthrow us. He touched me nearly, made my virtues bait when his tongue struck upon my poor estate.
I e'en quake to proceed. My spirit turns edge. I fear me she's unmothered. Yet I'll venture. That woman is all male, whom none can enter. What think ye now, lady? Speak, are you wiser? What said advancement to you? Thus it said, the daughter's fall lifts up the mother's head. Did it not, madam? Oh, but I'll swear it does, in many places. Tut, this age fears no man. 'Tis no shame to be bad, because 'tis common.
Aye, that's the comfort on't.
The comfort on't. Oh, I keep the best for last. Can these persuade you to forget heaven
And he gives her money.
Aye, these are they
Oh,
that enchant our sex. These are the means that govern our affections. That woman will not be troubled with the mother long that sees the comfortable shine of you. I blush to think what for your sakes I'll do.
oh, sovereign heaven, with thy invisible finger, even at this instant, turn the precious side of both mine eyeballs inward, not to see myself.
Look you, sir.
Oh,
Let this thank you for your pains.
oh, you are a kind madam.
I'll see how I can move.
Your words will sting.
If she be still chaste, I'll ne'er call her mine.
Spoke truer than you meant it.
Daughter Castiza?
Enter
Madam.
Castiza.
Madam?
Oh, she's yonder. Meet her. Troops of celestial soldiers guard her heart. Yon dam has devils enough to take her part.
Madam, what makes yon evil-officed man in presence of you?
Why?
He lately brought immodest writing sent from the Duke's son to tempt me to dishonorable act.
Dishonorable act? Good honorable fool, that wouldst be honest, 'cause thou wouldst be so, producing not one reason but thy will. And 'has a good report, prettily commended, but pray by whom? Poor people, ignorant people, the better sort, I'm sure, cannot abide it. And by what rule should we square our lives, but by our betters' actions? Oh, if thou knewst what 'twere to lose it, I would never keep it. But there's a cold curse laid upon all maids, whilst others clip the sun, they clasp the shades. Virginity is paradise locked up. You cannot come by yourselves without fee, and 'twas decreed that man should keep the key. Deny advancement? Treasure? The Duke's son?
I cry you mercy, lady, I mistook you. Pray, did you see my mother? Which way went she? Pray God I have not lost her.
Prettily put by.
Are you as proud to me as coy to him? Do you not know me now?
Why, are you she? The world so changed one shape into another, it is a wise child that knows her own mother.
Most right, i' faith.
I owe your cheek my hand for that presumption now, but I'll forget it. Come, you shall leave those childish behaviors and understand your time. Fortunes flow to you. What will you be, a girl? If all feared drowning, that spy waves ashore, gold would grow rich, and all the merchants poor.
It is a pretty saying of a wicked one, but methinks now it does not show so well out of your mouth, better in his.
Faith, bad enough in both, were I in earnest, as I'll seem no less. I wonder, lady, your own mother's words cannot be taken, nor stand in full force. 'Tis honesty you urge. What's honesty? 'Tis but heaven's beggar, and what woman is so foolish to keep honesty, and be not able to keep herself? No, times are grown wiser, and will keep less charge. A maid that has small portion now intends to break up house and live upon her friends. How blessed are you! You have happiness alone. Other must fall to thousands, you to one, sufficient in himself to make your forehead dazzle the world with jewels, and petitionary people start at your presence.
Oh, if I were young, I should be ravished.
I hate to lose your honor.
Lyd, how can you lose your honor to deal with my lord's grace? He'll add more honor to it by his title. Your mother will tell you how.
That I will.
Oh, think upon the pleasure of the palace, secured ease and state, the stirring meats ready to move out of the dishes that e'en now quicken when they are eaten, banquets abroad by torchlight, music, sports, bare-headed vassals that had ne'er the fortune to keep on their own hats, but let horns wear 'em, 9 coaches waiting, hurry, hurry, hurry.
Aye, to the devil.
Aye, to the devil, to the Duke, by my faith.
Aye, to the Duke, daughter. You'd scorn to think of the devil, and you were there once.
True, for most there are as proud as he for his hearty faith. Who'd sit at home in a neglected room, dealing her short-lived beauty to the pictures that are as useless as old men, when those poorer in face and fortune than herself walk with 100 acres on their backs, fair meadows cut into green foreparts? Oh, it was the greatest blessing ever happened to women when farmers' sons agreed to meet their gain, to wash their hands and come up gentlemen. The Commonwealth hath flourished ever since. Lands that were meat by the rod, that labor spared. Tailors ride down and measure 'em by the yard. Fair trees, those comely foretops of the field, are cut to maintain head tires. Much untold, all thrives, but chastity, she lies a cold. Nay, shall I come nearer to you? Are there so few honest women, but because 'tis the poorer profession? That's accounted best that's best followed, least in trade, least in fashion, and that's not honesty, believe it. And do but note the low and dejected price of it. Lose but a pearl, we search and cannot brook it, but that, once gone, who is so mad to look it?
Troth, he says true.
False! I defy you both. I have endured you with an ear of fire. Your tongues have struck hot irons on my face. Mother, come from that poisonous woman there.
Where?
Do you not see her? She's too inward then. Slave, perish in thy office. You heavens, please henceforth to make the mother a disease which first begins with me. Yet I've outgone you.
And exit Castiza.
O angels, clap your wings upon the skies and give this virgin crystal plaudities.
Thievish, coy, foolish. But return this answer. My lord shall be most welcome when his pleasure conducts him this way. I will sway mine own. Women with women can work best alone.
Exit Gratiana.
Indeed, I'll tell him so. Oh, more uncivil, more unnatural than those base-titled creatures that look downward. Why does not heaven turn black, or with a frown undo the world? Why does not earth start up and strike the sins that tread upon? Oh, were it not for gold and women, there would be no damnation. Hell would look like a lord's great kitchen without fire in it. But 'twas decreed before the world began that they should be the hooks to catch at man.
And he exits, and that's the end of Act 2, Scene 1, and the end of our final scene for this session. Oh my goodness. I mean, this scene would be very intense in any situation, but given that it comes like straight after that scene where we've had Antonio's dead wife on the stage who's committed suicide because she was raped, and who, you know, like as Aliki said, women are defined in this play entirely through their chastity. This scene is just, it becomes extra distressing just because of what's come before it. I found that really very disturbing, but we'll go around the room and see what everyone else thought. Lynn, I see your hand.
Yes, I was going to say that we're pegging the misogyny meter here. I mean, I realize that it's of its period, but he says something about if it weren't for money and women, there would be no sin. What? If it weren't for men and money, there would be no sin? Like, why? Yeah. Yeah, because it's Lussurioso's lust that initiates this whole horrible situation. Yeah, but that aside, if you can manage to put that aside, I mean, dramaturgically, this scene is so interesting because Vindici was so confident that his mother would never pimp out her own daughter, and so the event, the outcome is kind of the opposite of what he expected. He was worried about his sister, but not about his mother, and his sister's just like, "You both can go kick rocks," and his mother's like, "Oh, I'll talk her into it." So, you know, dramaturgically, really interesting.
Yeah, and also really interesting because we know if she does talk her into it, we know what fate awaits her. You know, we've actually seen a woman's body on stage already. We know that women in this play cannot be living unless they are chaste. You know, that's effectively the message we've had so far. So that raises the stakes even more dramaturgically. Who else wants to say anything about this scene, or are you all just too freaked out to talk? Eric.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got the Duchess who's not chaste. You've got the mother who's considering, well, not considering, but sort of like, you know, she like basically wobbly about her chastity. So I mean, it's an interesting juxtaposition. Kind of like you've got the chaste women who are dead, and then you've got the very powerful, powerful and strong as a character. And fiery and fierce Castiza, or Castiza? I don't know. I discuss. Who is, you know, trying to protect her chastity. So it's kind of an interesting contrast, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we do have women who are, yes, are not chaste, but they are. I don't know that they have much power. And I would say that they're literally dicing with death. You know, I mean, the Duchess obviously has the opportunity perhaps to get away with it because she's the Duchess. But, I mean, I get the impression that, well, I mean, maybe this is just my impression, but this is what I am getting from the structure of this play, which I'm sure is deliberate. I'm sure this is Middleton, you know, doing this to raise the stakes, is that basically women who are not chaste, women who are not chaste and basically get caught, whether it's willingly or otherwise, you know, that's the end for them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's certainly the impression I get. And like when I was reading those words of Castiza, and I mean, you know, she is so strong and so spirited. It's got nothing to do with her chastity at all. She's just a great character. She throws a bit of shade there. The way she talks to her mother, I'm like, yeah, I like her a lot, but it's got nothing to do with her chastity. And but you know, I was almost holding my breath because I thought, oh my God, if she goes along with this plan, if she changes her mind, then you just know she's going to end up dead. To be fair, she's probably going to end up dead anyway. But you know, there's every possibility that her brother would kill her on the spot, because that's how this world goes. That's how this court rolls, as far as women are concerned. Anyone got anything else to say about that scene, or shall we go to final thoughts? Lynn?
I just want to draw attention to the language. I mean, like Lois said, it's easy to miss that because the plot is so outrageous. And the world is just it's such a sewer. But when she says, I've endured your speech with an ear of fire and you've struck hot irons on my, what a great image. And even some of, you know, Vindici's language of seduction. I mean, the metaphors are really, really striking and really powerful. So, I mean, yeah, there's really interesting things going on in this play on the level of the language. So let's not miss that.
Yeah. Very, very true. Right. Okay. If no one else has anything to say, let's go around the room for final thoughts. Alan, I'll start with you.
I must admit, it's not grabbed me so far. I'm not really getting a picture of it, other than this is a venal court, and we've seen so many of those over the plays that we've done over the last number of years. And I've just a feeling that there is a competition going on as to who can put the most grotesqueries on stage at this time.
Yeah. Good. Right. Let's go to Eric. Your final thoughts, please.
Well, because you mentioned, Lynn mentioned language earlier. Well, a few minutes ago. It's just interesting how the women talk about virtue. Well, not virtue, but like the women. I say the women. It's Gratiana and the Duchess talk about sort of virginity and chastity and all that about as a jewel and stuff, whereas the men seem to think of it as just like sort of well, obviously aside from Vindici and Antonio, seem to have just revenge and property in mind, whereas I don't know, the code words are interesting because like the Duchess went on that whole thing about, yes, I sent him wealthy letters with jewels and stuff, so on and so forth. And then Gratiana talks all about like virginity being paradise locked up, denied advancement, treasure the youth, something like. But also like, what kind of reality is it that they're living in for that kind of? Because you talked about power as well, so it's like, well, they have some agency, but also not. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very skewed world that we've been plunged into as an audience. Totally normal for them, but very, very sticky world that we as the audience have been thrown into in this play. But I mean, you know, that's why we go to the theatre, isn't it? To experience worlds that are different from our own. Who should we go to next? Rachel, what final thoughts do you have?
Just two things. I actually interpret the ability to survive and be a chaste woman in the opposite direction, Sarah. I think that in order to be chaste, the only way to be a chaste woman is to be dead. This play, rather than, you know, so I don't think it's the chaste women that get to live. If they're still living at this court, they're not chaste.
Yeah, true. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. And the other is, this is kind of at the end of the revenge tragedy vogue, right? It's sort of towards they've been very popular. And this play is pulling out all the stops in revenge tragedy mode. So much so that I'm not sure that the tone is totally stable.
Yeah.
So we're all reading it as absolutely horrific, and of course the content is, but I think the tone is unstable.
Yes, I mean, yeah, there could be. You could. I mean, it is. I'm calling it very intense. I mean, depending on how you played it, yeah, it could be sort of, I suppose, over the top funny in one way or another. Yes, absolutely. You're right. It would absolutely work that way. I will. Okay, I will come to Lynn and then Mark. So feel free to reply to that, but then final thoughts as well, please.
Yes, and that that sort of Rachel's comment kind of ties into my final thoughts. I mean, someone was talking about Hoffman, and like, this isn't like Hoffman because Hoffman is sort of gleefully awful. And I agree that this has got kind of a more grim tone to it, but it's so much. I don't think we're supposed to be serious about it. I saw a production of this in Seattle some years ago, a modern dress production, and it was disgusting and hilarious if you're in the mood for that kind of thing. I mean, like, I hope I'm not giving away too much in the end, but the tragedies always end with lots of blood, and they had these big sheets of Visqueen that they gave the first row of the audience put on their laps because they were in the spatter zone. So it's not Hoffman in that way, because it's not because there's something just sort of nasty about it, but yes, it's at the very end of the Jacobean tragedy period. I mean, it's late in the period, so I mean, I think it's sending up all of these horrible things that Jacobean tragedy traffics in.
Let me come to you, Mark.
Yeah, and so if this is, if the excess of it and the over the topness is, done a certain way, it can potentially undercut some of the misogyny. But so yeah, reading this now versus like 8 to 10 years ago, the first couple times I read it, I forgot just how much like, it's just the whole thing. It's just all over. And I feel like that I don't know, I feel like it doesn't hold up as well compared to my memory. But I do know some of the more interesting, fun things happen later in the play. So
we will look forward to them, will we? Will I? I'm not sure, but we'll do them anyway. We will find out what they are. I mean, yeah, I think that's my final thought about it. There is always a lot of baked-in misogyny in these plays, but in this one, it's just so obvious and prevalent. It's making me any glee I could get from it being, quite an intense, over the top revenge tragedy is kind of being tempered by the fact it's just making me go ugh, because it is so misogynistic. But that is just my final thought. Let me go to Lois. You were playing Vindici today. How was it for you?
That was wonderful. I mean, I really enjoyed saying a lot of those lines. I mean, I do think that poetically it's very interesting. I think T.S. Eliot thought that, he thought it was by someone named Cyril Turner, but he thought that this was a very great poet directed toward chaos, I think. But in fact, most of the productions I've seen of it have been actually very funny, although, and you could see ways of doing this. Even, I mean, there are an awful lot of little moral generalizations that people sprinkle in here along with all the villainous statements. And if you played the misogynistic statements on the same line as people just say, boom, here is my view on life, and this is what we should all think, it just becomes pretty ludicrous after a while. I mean, Middleton had written, I think, pretty well entirely comedies until this play, and this was done by the King's Men. It may have been, I think, the first play of his that was, and he may have been, trying to write. He may well have been thinking of, a part for actors that were really good at mad scenes, revenge scenes, stuff like that. It's not really the last of the revenge plays. I mean, there's a play called The Atheist's Tragedy, which actually is by Cyril Turner. and which I assume we'll read at some point. And that has statements about revenge in it. I mean, it's quite clearly seeing itself as a kind of revenge play. I don't know, there are all sorts of things in this that I find really fascinating. I mean, they're also extremely effective retorts. I mean, that lovely bit where Castiza says, sorry, where did you see my mother? Just refusing to. It's almost like a morality play. She come from that poisonous woman there. There is no poisonous woman. It's her mother herself, but it's as if it's split into the kind of morality figure and her real self, which is kind of fascinating. And the imagery, you could have really fun analyzing all of that. I mean, the amount of sort of jewelry, for instance. I could also see why it was possible to do a modern dress adaptation and a modern dress film, because to me, this world of, the palace, the jewels, the money, I mean, it all sounds like, I don't know, the Kardashians, keeping up with the Kardashians, or, that kind of stuff, which apparently a lot of people really do adore, watching very rich people spending enormous amounts of money. That's what's being offered as a kind of inducement to all sorts of things.
There's a lot of excess, isn't there? I mean, I was thinking more about all the food and drink imagery, but the jewels as well. It's just like there's just so much of everything. It's kind of laid on really thick. That's a really nice modern day analogy. I can think of another American dynasty that would lend itself to that analogy as well, but I'm not going to say what it is because let's not get political. Let's come to Aliki for your final thought.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm the one who was talking a lot about the misogyny, but I was kind of dealing with it until Gratiana started singing "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend" at her virgin daughter. Okay. I've seen this play a couple of times. I saw the modern dress film, which I don't remember at all. And I saw a staged production, which I was furious with at the time, because the guy playing, I've just forgotten his name, and we talk about him all the time, the Vindici.
Vindici, yeah.
The guy playing Vindici didn't seem to know that the lines he was saying had meaning. He just spoke words. And So it was very interesting me to hear him now, or to hear his words spoken properly. And then I thought, well, maybe that's why they cast somebody who couldn't speak the words, because they're all so dreadful. I mean, they're fascinating and interesting and beautifully written, but they make him into somebody you can't bear to, root for. And I thought you were maybe meaning to see him as the hero or the protagonist. I don't know. Yeah, let's see where it goes. I'm intrigued.
Indeed, as am I. I am intrigued too. Mark, is that a hand or is that just us? No, that's not a hand. Okay, good. Right. Well, that is the first part of. Oh, Eric has a hand. Go for it, Eric. Last word.
I have two.
Surprise.
In a very able. No, I was just gonna say, because like earlier, Lois had mentioned that this was obviously written like at the time of James becoming king and stuff. So obviously, if you consider that right before, Queen Elizabeth I having died, a maid, supposedly, or at least the Virgin Queen, blah, 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 then that would have been bad politically, as in, it did mess up the transition to power and all that. I mean, her reign was messy at the beginning, as far as I know, sort of people trying to kill her, blah, blah, blah. People not accepting her power, blah, blah. But then, even at the end, the transition to power was not smooth. So I can imagine how, chastity could be, the golden standard for, chastity outside of marriage. I mean, being the golden standard as well. So,
yeah. And that was one thing. Did you have another thing?
No, I think Lois had the response.
That was it. Okay, all right. I'll go to Lois.
Yeah, because I think you have actually read The Changeling, haven't you? I mean, one thing about that play, which is quite a lot later, is that it seems to me that Middleton is showing the danger of a kind of overvaluation of chastity. I mean, there's that amazing bit at the end where, Beatrice Joanna has actually committed murder or connived at murder in order to preserve her reputation for chastity. And at the end, she's willing to tell her husband that she's been involved in murder, but she keeps saying, remember, I'm true unto your bed, which is not true, but that's so much worse for her. than committing murder. And that can't be something that Middleton expects us to agree with.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, it could be, depending on how normally I'm saying this about comedies. Normally I'm saying, oh, this could be really good, depending on where it goes. It's rare that I say that about tragedies, because we kind of usually know where tragedies are going. There's going to be a big bloodbath and there's going to be a lot of swords. But this, I'm feeling like with this, like I think how I feel about this play will change depending on where it goes, because we've had such a strong setup and I'm really disliking it so much. But then if he's using that actually to make a comment about, yeah, how ridiculous is this, then actually that could turn out to be pretty interesting, pretty subversive. So we'll see. Let's find out next time. Join us again for the second part of the Revengers tragedy. This session is coming to a close, so it just remains for me to say thank you very much to all the wonderful readers, both for their reading and for their wise and insightful comments. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. 'Tis no shame to be bad, because 'tis common.